Good day everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Michael. I'm a filmmaker and director of photography from Melbourne, Australia. And in this video, I want to talk about the R5C. I recently released a video where I said this.
People have asked me, will you be getting the R5C or are you looking at that as an option? And the answer is no. This is pretty much giving me everything I need at the moment.
And I'm coming back to say, well, I was wrong, and having a couple of months just to see all the videos be released on the R5C and how much everyone is loving this particular camera means I have changed my mind and I'm wanting to upgrade from the R5, which I have right here and been shooting on now for a number of months. And I'm just wanting to, upgrade to the R5C just because of the extra features that it has. And I think I was pretty sold on the R5, but seeing as I'm doing a lot less photography than video, the specs on the video for the R5C kind of just blow this a little bit out of the water. So yeah, I'm basically looking at either having this as a B cam and the R5C as an A cam, replacing my Blackmagic Pocket cinema camera, which I'm shooting this on right now, or transitioning completely to the R5C and then looking at an upgrade pathway to maybe a Red Komodo or something for an A cam later on. But the R5C just unlocks a whole lot of stuff for me, and in this video I want to get into that. So the first reason why I think the R5C is a winner for me, and it's going to be the edge over the R5, is because of the codecs. It has a myriad of different codecs and a lot of different flavors that you can choose from. So whereas on the R5, I was kind of stuck with the H.265 because I didn't really want to shoot in a RAW format. I didn't really want to shoot in 8K. I was happy with the image coming from the R5 in the 4K fine and the 4K crop mode. I didn't really feel I needed the 8K in the R5, but obviously that was due to overheating. That was due to big file sizes, like massive file sizes. And I think the R5C has kind of taken away those issues for me, because you can record in 8K in a HEVC codec, you can record in 8K in much smaller file sizes. So in a way, it's taken care of that. Now, I also had a problem where with the R5, I was offloading footage for clients and they didn't want it in a HEVC codec because their systems were still Intel-based Macs or older Windows computers, and they weren't able to edit that natively. So they wanted me to transcode into a ProRes and offload into ProRes. And I tried the Ninja 5 and I just didn't really have a good time with it. Like, it was just a little bit cumbersome and clunky, and I wanted to do handheld stuff sometimes, and the Ninja 5 just didn't really suit me. So moving to something that can shoot natively, a codec that is editable like a XFAVC, I'm really looking forward to having something like that where I can just offload the footage directly to the client and not have to transcode. Now, I had it set up in a way that transcoding was easy for me, but essentially getting that offloaded to the client straight away without needing to transcode anything, without needing to put it into the computer and use Adobe Media Encoder or use DaVinci Resolve to get that transcoded is just a bit of a game changer. And so that's one of the reasons why I thought that this camera was really good. It's got so many different flavors. It's got a 4K DCI in our XFAVC, which is a high bit rate, 10-bit image. And then it has right down to a 420 8-bit. So, and I think that would still be a decent quality as well, because it's all coming from the downsampled 8K sensor. It also has some crop modes and some windowed modes and a Super 35, Super 16. So it's got a lot of different options that can really make that camera do whatever I need it to do. And the only thing probably it doesn't do is it doesn't shoot in ProRes, but it can shoot in something that is editable for my clients and, industry kind of standard that is much better in a post-production workflow. So that's kind of point number one, and a few other points to go along with that. Point number two is false color and a proper histogram. And I've worked with the Blackmagic Pocket cinema camera and I love false color. It's really useful just to pull straight away, figure out, okay, what's exposed correctly, what's underexposed, what's overexposed in the image without needing to worry about where in the histogram those elements sit. And so also a proper histogram, finally. I don't know why they just have like the little kind of cheap, crappy histogram. on all the other Canon cameras. You know, you're paying $4 or $5 grand and you're still getting a histogram that's not really video centric. So I'm so stoked that they put the histogram on, and that's probably not going to help me a lot, but just to have that reference of where things are at, and it's just easy to get a visual of everything and making sure you're not clipping the blacks, making sure you're not pushing up into the highlights. We know the Canon R5, the log profiles in the Canons, they're kind of not great when you start to clip highlights and push really hard into highlights. So you want to make sure that you are in range with a camera like the R5 or the R5C. My third point is off-speed recording. Now, this is something on the Blackmagic Pocket I've gotten used to. I shoot a lot of my projects in the real estate and / building market, and shoot for builders and shoot for different clients like in that space, construction and stuff like that. And I shoot most of my footage of the homes or completed constructions in 50 frames a second. And with the off-speed recording, I can basically shoot that in 50 frames a second and have it play back at 25 straight away. So basically you shoot it in 50 and then it bakes it into a 25p timeline. So that's really cool feature that the Canon R5 doesn't have. And not that I need it, but when I play back or review footage, I usually have to use like the slow motion on the camera. So I actually play back the 50 frames, but then I hit slow motion and play it back at a different slow motion speed so I can see how it will look in the final image. But with this feature on the R5, I can play it back in 25 frames a second and it's going to be already slow mode. So that's kind of a cool feature that I'm really looking forward to trying out when I get my hands on the R5C. The next thing, I think this is a big one for me, is it has the ability to record proxies onto the SD card. So you've got the CF card in the camera and you're going nuts on, like, let's say a raw 8K image or a raw light, and you're just shooting a lot of megabytes. It's like a big file size and you're just filling up that CF Express card like crazy. But on the SD card at exactly the same time, you can be filming a smaller file size, I mean like a H.265, even a H.264. The ability to record that onto the SD card means that you have your proxy workflow already. So any older Intel Macs or any editors who really haven't got the grunt in their new systems, they've not got the M1 system, they can't edit H.265 HEVC footage, then you can basically say, that's okay, here's the full 8K and the proxy as well. And I think that's a game changer, because you can literally give them the footage and they can put that into their edit and edit it down super easy. So I think that's a really amazing feature. So what are the downsides to the R5C over the R5? And I think there's some obvious ones. There's no in-body image stabilization. And I think that's a bit of an issue. I really thought that they could put it in there and have the ability to switch it on or off. That would be my preference. Have the ability to turn it off if you don't want and just use the IS in the lens, or have it on when you really do want to walk with the camera and have it super duper stabilized. So I think the R5 still will have a place in my kit, and if I can manage it financially, I'll probably still have the R5 as a B camera and the R5C as my A camera. But the IBIS missing, it's not going to affect me too much. You know, the R5C will be used mainly on sticks and on gimbals. So it's not going to be a camera that I'm going to use more run and gun like I have with the R5. So I think, yeah, a little bit of a fail there, not having some kind of IBIS, but obviously they packed other things into this camera. And then obviously that took up space, so they couldn't include the IBIS in the camera. So I get it, it's still the small form factor and everything like that. So it's a compromise I'm willing to accept, to have the R5C and have these added features that were talked about. The other downside to the R5C, I think, is battery life. And, you know, shooting for 8K RAW and getting 20 minutes on a battery is a bit like when I first picked up the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 6K. That was very similar, shooting high bit rates and stuff like that. It would just chew through batteries. So, you know, you rig out a system for the bigger shoots, and I have a bunch of MPF batteries from Sony that I could rig out and I could connect them to the R5C. So in a way, it's not a train wreck, but certainly I think the battery grip would be a good option there. I don't have the battery grip for the R5 because I've not felt the need to have that. But on the R5C, definitely I'm going to need to have some kind of external battery setup. And obviously to shoot in the high frame rates, you need to have an external battery plugged into the USB port, which again is a little bit of a weird thing for them to have done. And it's like, here's the camera, it's in this form factor, but by the way, you've got to rig it. So why wouldn't they have done some other system so you don't have to carry a separate battery pack? I don't know. I get that they're keeping the small form factor, and I like that fact. And I think the battery life being not so great is something I'm willing to overlook as I did with the Blackmagic Pocket 6K. The next thing worth mentioning about the R5C is the record limit and overheating. I've put these sort of together because it takes away two of the major issues with the R5. And you can just record continuous until you fill the card or the battery runs out. And that's awesome. I think I don't hit this record limit much anymore on the R5, so it hasn't been a massive issue. And even when I do, I can just stop the talent and just kind of, reset or re-ask the question. So it hasn't really affected me heaps on the R5, but just having that ability to hit record and do longer form stuff because the thing's not going to overheat in the higher frame rates, and even shooting outside in the sun and that sort of thing, there's just going to be no anxiety around overheating and record limit. So that's an awesome feature. I think the last thing on the camera is just it handles shadows a little bit better than the R5. And I think Cam Mackey, I'm not sure how you say it, he's done a video on showing how the shadow detail in the R5C is just heaps superior to the R5 and a lot cleaner. And I think that's good because, they move the sensor technology forward, and every year it just gets better and better, and the processing of that gets better and better. And so in terms of, the R5C being a cleaner image, it's more lookalike to, I think, Komodo or the Blackmagic, the higher end Blackmagic cameras, the G2 Ursa and stuff like that. So I really think they've hit it out of the park with this sensor, and having the ability to shoot in RAW and then render that in C-Log2, giving you an extra stop or so of dynamic range, means that this camera really opens up to be something that can be used as a cinema camera and really can compete with the higher end cameras. Just not having a transcode, having the Proxies able to record onto the SD card, those kind of things are going to save me a ton of time over each project, and so therefore it's going to pay for itself. The additional price above the R5, it's going to pay itself off really quickly in terms of time and workflow and ease of use. So I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on the RC. Well, that was all my thoughts in this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you've been a long time viewer of my channel and you've come on from the 5D Mark IV days or from the EOS R days or watching some of my R5 content, and you're on here to find out whether you should jump on the R5C, I would say go for it. I would say you're not going to look back if you do, and give it a like if it's helped you in any way. Give this video a like and make sure you subscribe if you're not already, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.